Hello and welcome to another day in the arena. It's me, it's CGB, here with editor Maddie B, and your storyteller, my lovely wife Gina, for another episode of CovertGoLore. This is the fourth episode from the official STRIXHAVEN storyline lore, and it's called Put to the Test. Take it away, Gina.
This continues to be written by Adana Washington. I have to ask, are you ready to be put to the test?
I wake up every day ready to be put to the test.
That's the correct answer.
Yes.
So, our story begins in the dorms. Will startles awake. Oh, he's partially buried in books and papers from an unfinished homework assignment. Obs. There's no sign of Rowan, and her side of the room has kind of been undisturbed for weeks. And he kind of stands up, tries to stretch, but then he hears shouts from the hallway. Southern Gate, how many? Is everyone? He opens his door and he sees there's a crowd of students rushing past. He recognizes Arlo Wickle, who is a point guard for the Prismari Mage Tower team, and asks him hey, what's going on? And Wickle points down the hall and says, "First year, follow the crowd. Dean Uvilda will take you to a designated shelter." In case you forgot, last time the attack was about to begin, and it's on now. Will, but what's happening? And Wickle says, "The Auric are here."
The Auric are here! They're gonna die!
Then he runs after the younger students, corralling them as he goes. Will has a sick feeling in his stomach. Professor Onyx had been right. The scene is chaos, and now the crowd of students freezes at one end of the courtyard, their faces horrified by what they're seeing approaching from the other end. It's creatures skittering on those narrow pointed legs with glowing violet spines and rows of sharp
mage
teeth.
hunters? Are they called mage hunters?
Yes.
Mage hunters. They
are making terrible screeching noises, and they sound hungry. No, not on my head. No. Will feels the earth shaking, and Wickle steps out of the crowd, his body vibrating with energy, and he thrusts both hands into the ground. And then this churning soil rips out from where he stands and forms a big wall between the creatures and the students. Wickle turns around. The first years are just standing there with their mouths hanging open. And he yells, "Run! I said run!" So they all run. And Will can already see the first of the creatures is just climbing over the wall effortlessly. He has to find Rowan. Let's cut to across campus. Rowan is howling and swinging her sword and fighting creatures. Her uniform is stained with the blood of her enemies. And behind her, Plink is very afraid. She's backing away from a creature, kind of trying to shout an incantation at it, ah! And Auvergne, the other friend, is calling Roots to wrap around the creature's legs and drag it down into the earth. Plink shouts, "They're everywhere! We're surrounded! Game over, man! Game over!"
Game over, man!
Auvergne suggests, waiting for the professors to arrive, but Rowan cuts her off. "If we wait, we're going to be overwhelmed. We have to get out of here." Auvergne says, "And go where?" Rowan looks at the large structure at the center of campus. The place where the professors would make a last stand. The place where Will would go. And points to the biblioplex. "There." And Plink says, "Oh, now you want to study?" Let's go to another place outside on the grounds where a student shouts to Professor Onyx, "Watch out!" Onyx spins around to see an Auric agent send a hissing coil of energy at her. It's a vicious spell. It's meant to suck the life from her. But this is child's play for her. She puts out a hand as if to say, "Stop." And the spell just stops in the air. The students have their mouths hanging open. "Professor Onyx is so cool." She thinks to herself, he could have hit the students. Oh well, then I don't feel bad about this. And she sends it back at him. Now it's twice as hungry, and the magic devours him before he even has a chance to scream. I did the scream. We didn't hear it. Just, Deans Cayenne and Ibrahim maybe. We've never met them before. They run over and they try to talk about like regrouping with the rest of the faculty, but they're quickly distracted by attacks and having to protect students. And amidst all the fighting and the spell slinging, Onyx sees one strange man with something wrong with his face. We know now it's Luca and he's wearing a fox face. So she points him out to the other deans and says, I think he's the one controlling them.
She's so smart.
She's really good at this. They're shocked. They've never seen magic like this before. But Onyx says, there's always a spell. So she extends her hand and shoots black threads of magic at him. But before they can touch him, one of the creatures throws itself in the way and then is crumpled into dust by her spell. Dean Cain moves forward and light is shining out from her, and a horde of angular, cat-like fractals assembles. They leap forward at her command, colliding with the mage hunters. And then the strange man just kind of disappears into the crowd. Onyx starts to pursue, but then she realizes all this mayhem and chaos across campus with no apparent aim. It's misdirection. So she goes on. Now let's go back to Will. Will is running as fast as he can, and he's being chased by a mage hunter. It's super scary, and the wet grass is slippery. So he thinks, oh, I can do something with that. He quickly touches his hand to the ground without slowing down and turns the dew into hard ice. And the mage hunter does a Bambi on ice routine behind him and goes down. Will barely has time to cheer for himself before he runs straight into another mage hunter. He puts his hands on the outer shell of it and freezes it, so it cracks. But now Bambi has gotten up and is in pursuit again, so he's got to run some more. Then something super cool happens. Many roars fill the air, and the mage hunters, they try to run away, but they're not fast enough. And a column of fire shoots down from the sky and sweeps over the grounds. And there's this like super strong smell of burning mage hunters. Will quickly shields himself with some sheets of ice and lets out a big whoop whoop for the dragons. They're here.
House Targaryen has arrived.
That's right. Now Rowan hears the sound of her name and turns to see it's Will, her brother. This is a few minutes later. He's holding a big sword made of ice, running towards her like, hey! She runs to him too, and they give each other a big hug. Someone shouts, look out! And Rowan just sees an auric agent like pop up from behind a hedge and sends thorns of lethal blood red energy towards them both. She knocks her brother to the ground and closes her eyes, bracing for the impact. But then she hears like a gurgling noise, opens her eyes to see, oh, the auric agent's on the ground now, and Professor Onyx is there and she's looking like super stern. You two, why aren't you taking shelter? And they both say together, oh, we were attacked. Onyx says, this is all a distraction. They are herding the students and forming a perimeter around the biblioplex. Rowan asks, well, what should we do? Onyx considers, if I were a responsible professor, I'd get the two of you to safety and keep you out of this. And Rowan says, oh, but you're not going to do that, are you? And Onyx smiles, no, I'm not quite so responsible as that, and I need help. So Onyx takes them to an old maintenance passageway she found when she was a student. Its entrance is a big circle of stone set into a hillside in the swampy forest of the Witherbloom campus. Will asks, is there going to be anything waiting for us down there? Onyx says, maybe. No one at STRIXHAVEN has used these in a while, but I think Extus, the leader of the Auric, has been sending people through them for months now. Will says, oh, so all we need to do is worry about a bunch of mages who'd like to murder us. Rowan says, toughen up, Will. It's nothing we haven't seen before. Now we're cutting to inside the biblioplex. Extus is there, and he's walking down the corridors with purpose. An agent runs up to him with a big old yellow book, and it's a yellowed book.
The phone book to all the multiverse.
Yeah.
You want Bolus on the phone? I can give it to you.
It's the guy from the first episode who had the encounter with Onyx. His name is Taver. I found the book! Extus says, good job. Wipes off a layer of dust. Taver, can I ask, what is it?
You found it? How do you know it's the right book? Go on.
Extus says, it's the word of another brilliant mind overlooked and left to rot. They throw us away if we don't suit their purpose. You'll be rewarded for everything you've done for the cause. And then he shakes Taver's hand, and Taver's probably like, this is the best moment of my life. And then behind his back, Extus sees a Silver Quill student bleeding badly, with one arm hanging down to her side, glaring at them with utter fury and hatred. And she sends an orb of perfect darkness at them. Without even hesitating, Extus pulls Tavar in as a human shield. Tavar screams, ah! Drops to the floor. The student tries to do another one, but she used up all her energy. So Extus sends like an Emperor Palpatine lightning bolt at her. And she crumples, and the library is silent again. He glances down at Tavar, steps over his body, and keeps going.
Ice cold.
Brr. Now Will, Rowan, and Onyx are making their way down the secret passageway. Will marvels at it, like, you found this as a student? And Onyx says, it was a very long time ago. It was a very different time, and I was a very different person back then. Now they emerge into a big cave chamber, and there's a giant chasm and a wooden bridge across it that goes to the next tunnel. Will's like not feeling this rickety bridge and asks, is there some other way to cross?
Maybe one with some books.
Professor Onyx and Rowan are just taking the rotten planks at alarming speed. They just press on, and Will's like, hey, slow down. Little chunks of wood are falling from the bridge into the darkness below. And Rowan's like, every minute we waste here is one the Oryx spend hurting people. And then there's a loud crack. Oh no, the plank she's standing on snaps underneath her. And Rowan falls, and Will dives for her, locking a hand around her wrist. And he heaves her back up, and they crawl the rest of the way. And she says, thanks. And he says, you do the same thing for me.
I wish you'd stayed dead.
We'll never forget. Come on, hurry up, says Professor Onyx, who barely noticed their near-death experience. They catch up, and Will asks Professor Onyx, what is Extus after? And Onyx replies, could be anything. There are many books and magical artifacts of great value in the biblioplex. Will says, so where are you taking us? How do you know where to go? Onyx says, I'm taking you where I would go if I wanted to cause the most damage possible. That kind of freaks Will out, but they keep moving. Now we're going back to Extus, and he's resting his hand on the double doors that lead to the Hall of Oracles. The doors are locked, but the orc attack happened so quickly there's no other defensive measures that have been put in place, and he easily just blasts the doors off their hinges. And the Hall of Oracles is encircled by like lots of old statues in the room. Extus imagines they are staring at him with like super judgy-like from behind the grave, like he's not good enough to be there. He plans to make them grateful that they're already dead. And in the middle of the room is the STRIXHAVEN Snarl. It's this big old glowy thing. It's hanging in the air. It's super powerful, and it's sitting in this series of containment circles. It's super awesome, and Extus is like pumped.
It's like the middle of the Death Star.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like that. Exus is like really pumped to get started, and he flips through the book he was given to the page he needs, and he tells the other orc agents who are holding books and scrolls, like, lay them out in order, and he begins to read. Going back to our heroes, Onyx had expected to have to fight her way to the Snarl, but she hardly had to kill anyone. Like, Pikachu Rowan is just zapping fools left and right. Will's covering their bodies in ice so they don't get flanked as they pass. And when they arrive, they see the doors are already ripped open. Extus is already incanting, and Onyx feels the powerful dark magic shifting in the air. We're too late. He's already bound himself to the Snarl. And Rowan says, "Not yet, we're not!" And she rushes in. And Will shouts, "Wait!" And he runs after her. But they don't know what Onyx knows, which is they can't face him when he's got that much power at his disposal. And the next part just kind of happens all in slow motion. The orc agents turn, all of them pulling up spells like fireballs and bubbling venom. They've all got something to throw. And Rowan just screams with fury and delight, letting loose like never before. Her whole body is crawling with lightning, and she just jumps into the group of agents, and smoke comes out of their hoods, and they all collapse as a group.
Okay.
Onyx thinks to herself, that girl is a force to be reckoned with already. A few more years, and she'll be truly terrifying. But Rowan doesn't notice. There's another agent coming up behind her, and their fingers are crackling with killing power. Onyx concentrates, and she feels through the arcane energy in the air the little light of the man's soul. With savage force of will, she just pushes it out of the man's body, which drops in a heap on the floor. Now a spell splashes on Onyx. What? She hadn't sensed any offensive magic building up. What did she get hit with? The whole room just sways under her feet and spins. It's like planeswalking, but it's sick and twisted. And the last thing she sees is Will, not looking at her, but at his sister. And he looks terrified. But for her or of her, Onyx isn't sure. Then everything goes dark. And when she opens her eyes, she sits up and feels like dirt and leaves. She's in the forest. It was forced translocation magic. She'd never been hit with that before. The campus is like way over there. She thinks, try not to die, you two. I'm coming, but it's going to be a long walk. Back at the Snarl area, Rowan stares at where Professor Onyx had been and yells at Exus, "What did you do to her?" He doesn't answer, he's busy, and she shoots a bolt of lightning at him. He just casually holds up a hand. It stops midair, and it falls, shattering on the ground like it was made of glass. And then Exus sends a massive force in her direction, and she closes her eyes and holds up her hands, and Will protects her by throwing up an ice wall, which shatters from the impact. And Will shouts, "Rowan, we need to synchronize our magic like we used to." Rowan says, "You said it yourself. I can't control my powers anymore. There's something different now. Our magic is changing." Will says, "Yeah, you've gotten stronger, but I've gotten more controlled. Together we can do it. There's no other way." But Rowan doesn't think it's powerful enough. She looks at the Snarl, at all that power. It's right there. And she says, "We can do what he's doing. We can draw on the Snarl's power. Use the same dirty trick." Will says, "That's too dangerous. It's too much power. You'll kill yourself. You'll destroy all of Strixhaven." But while they've been arguing over strategy, Extus has sent another wave of force at them. Will throws up another shield of ice, but this time the spell is stronger. It just like punches right through the wall, knocks them both across the room. But when they sit back up, they see blood. It's not their blood, but there are small streams of it just spreading throughout the room. And she follows the path of the blood with her eyes. Rowan sees the snarl, which used to glow blue, but now it's shining a deep red. And now a bone-shattering roar shakes the hall. And there's this big crack that rips open the room. A piece of ceiling comes plummeting straight for them. Rowan dives with Will just out of the way, and the stone hits the floor. And then another stone falls, and it crushes the body of a fallen Auric agent. And the blood just keeps flowing stronger, bubbling like from a fountain. Extus puts his arms out and commands, "Rise, Great One! I call upon you, Blood Avatar! Unleash your wrath upon this unfair world!" And out of the blood fountain emerges an ancient bronze helmet with horns, and it's being worn by this massive, vaguely humanoid shape. It has not one, not two, not three, but 4 big muscly arms, and in each arm is a big mean weapon with spikes or sharp edges, just take your pick. It's a creature of war, a being whose only purpose is to unmake what has stood for centuries. This was Extus's plan, what they had tried to stop, and now their failure could mean the death of them all. And that's episode 4.
Will the Wonder Twins rise to the occasions and stop the demon? Will Liliana finish her nature walk in time to help people out? Will Luca see the error of his ways, take off the fox mask, and be a little more helpful in this tragic situation? And will all the other students and faculty of Strixhaven combined do anything about this?
Anything at all.
Tune in for the thrilling conclusion in the next episode to the Strixhaven official storyline. So for Maddie B, the editor, for my lovely wife Gina, the storyteller, it's me, it's CGB. Thank you for watching this video. As always, we will see you in the next video. You're cool.